This is the F3 Knoxville podcast, streaming live every week from Knoxville, Tennessee, where we'll take a look into the lives of our high-impact men that make up F3 Knoxville. We'll cover news and updates from our AOs and region, talk about leadership, and much more. Welcome, and iron sharpens iron. All right, everybody. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, the founder of F3 Knoxville, Captain Crunch. How are you, Captain?
Man, not too bad, Steve. Not too bad. Glad to be able to be here and pumped for this, man. Thanks for doing this, capturing the heart of F3 Knoxville like this so guys can stay connected.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. It's an honor to have you here. I know I wanted to have you on first just to hear your thoughts, being the person that brought F3 to Knoxville almost 5 years ago. And I know we have a lot of awesome stuff to go into today. Specifically, I think about really the F3 Knoxville story and what comes to mind for you with that, and then also the Captain Crunch story about what that's done for you in the past 5 years, and kind of where you see F3 Knoxville going, and just when you look back how far we've come in the past 5 years. So once again, thanks for taking time out of your day to do this, and why don't you tell us a little bit about the F3 Knoxville story? How'd this come to fruition?
Okay, man, you got it. And you just mentioned something, and I just want to just kind of start there with regard to just, how much F3 Knoxville has impacted me personally. And that, because my story is a little bit intertwined with the story of F3 Knoxville, just because, I heard about F3. It was out almost exactly 5 years ago when we started. We planted, in November, but there's a 6-week process up to the plant. So I had gotten the email from Chaser out of North Carolina that we were gonna finally get an opportunity to have a region or to start F3 here in Knoxville, and but the journey actually goes back a whole year and a half. I can't remember how I saw it, or I think maybe it was a friend of mine that just said something to me about F3 in general, and I had heard about it, went online, looked at it, and I just loved the idea. I love the idea of, number one, just men getting together and getting better. At the time, I was kind of going through this time in my life where I was really trying to improve myself physically. I could see where I was getting older and wasn't where I used to be, wasn't where I wanted to be. And so I was doing things at home, doing things in the neighborhood. I'm not really a gym guy. Nothing against it. For me, it just wasn't something that really fit my schedule with small kids, and honestly, the cost was just something that was a little bit prohibitive for us. And so I was just doing stuff around the neighborhood, running, got into rucking and doing those kind of things. And it was good, but it wasn't. But there was still something missing, right? And so I heard about F3, and I saw the idea of just this. For me, the word that came to mind was a tribe. A group of people from this diverse kind of background where they came together, and there was something that brought them together that was bigger than them, that they could give themselves to, and that made them better, and they could push each other to be better. Yeah. So I reached out to F3 based in Charlotte. I reached out to them, said, "Hey man, I don't know how or what, but I would love to do this here in Knoxville. I think it would be awesome." They're like, "Man, that sounds great. Just go for it." I'm like, "Go for it? Go for what? How do you even get started?"
Right.
And so that kind of began this process where about every 4 to 6 months, I would just send an email and say, "Hey, there are still men in Knoxville that need F3, and so when you're ready to keep moving west, you let me know." And then, man, I got the email from Chaser, and I was like, "Yes, finally!" And so we started the process of beginning to plant here in Knoxville. And what that looked like 6 weeks of prep with just phone calls, talking to guys from North Carolina about things that they had done and what they experienced. And I think for me, what that did was that set a tone. It set a tone of men giving themselves to other men so that men would be better. I know that's a lot of men, but but it was just this idea of not being a life taker, but a life giver. And I had calls with these guys that didn't know me. I've still never met, but just spent time, right? Just investing. And that investment kind of planted all these seeds here in Knoxville. And then we launched in November, and it was crazy. It was a crazy experience because, man, I reached out to everybody I knew. I had everybody that I know reach out to everybody they knew, and Man, that morning we had no idea what to expect. It rained the night before, so it was like, oh no, is anybody going to come out? It was cold, it was wet. And we had a group of guys from North Carolina that came in, and then I think if I'm not mistaken, it was like 15, 17 guys here, you know. And man, I pulled into Lakeshore and just saw the cars coming in, and it began, you know, and it just started. And from that point forward, there's another 6-week period after the launch where we have guys from other regions come in and lead the workouts on Saturday. And the point of that, it's to plant something in the DNA, right? F3 is peer-led, right? Every workout's different. Every guy brings their own thing to what the workout is. But there is like this basic little structure. It's kind of like just a trellis that we hang things on. And those things really matter because they bring us together. And they kind of create this cohesion and this consistency. And so we had guys from all over East, from North Carolina and South Carolina, come over and kind of plant those things in us. And so we met on Saturday mornings, and then we started one workout, you know, during the week, and then we did a couple more workouts, and then Lakeshore kind of became the asylum, and that blew up, and then we just started planting in different places, and man, the rest is what it is right now. And so I think the consistent thing that for me just sticks out is just this idea of I have met so many incredible men that I would have never had an opportunity to meet. That quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I could have even maybe not met simply because of my preconceived ideas about what they did for a living or where they were from or whatever. I mean, like, you know, one of the things that's so amazing to me about Meeting in the Gloom is, man, it's just me and you. And all I know about you is that you showed up this morning to give yourself for me to be better, and I'm here for you to be better. And that instant connection, like that creates a tribe. And it makes the F3 that we wear on our chest more than just a simple logo. To me, it becomes something that I hope and pray, even after 5 years, gets stronger, that it becomes something that calls us up to not just simply get better physically, but to be better men, physically, spiritually, mentally, relationally, emotionally, all those things going into holistically making us better men. And it begins in the gloom, but it should never just end there, right? It should begin the life investment on life that we have. And that's what makes F3 special.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, thank you for
sharing.
Sorry,
that's a lot.
No, that's good. No, that's good. That's good.
A lot. Sorry, but yeah.
No, I'm glad. Thank you for sharing all that. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
good.
it's incredible. I think you touched on an excellent point there of guys we may never have interaction with outside of F3.
Yeah, you know, because guys, I mean, I think our natural, kind of the way that our world is naturally more competitive versus cooperative. Right? So our world naturally puts each other against each other. So we're constantly kind of measuring how we line up or whatever with the guys around us. And what F3 does, or what it's done for me, is it's just leveled that, and it's kind of pushed away all that garbage and just got back to the pure reality of part of what I believe the male soul needs is other male souls speaking into it. And sometimes I think we make that overly profound and think it needs to be this big kind of thing that happens. But man, sometimes we just need to be around other men. And we just need to laugh, and we need to, be pushed, and we need to run a little faster, go a little harder. And just remember that we have what it takes within us. But sometimes we don't know that until we're around other men that are going to, quite frankly, lovingly call it out of us. And to me, that's what's always been at the core of F3. I mean, even if you look at our mission statement, we're not a workout group. That's not what we are. Yeah. We're not a men's group. That's not what we are. We do those things. But the end goal is to invigorate male community leadership. That's what actually we are. We are a leadership factory. We're a leadership university where we're investing in men in something as simple as calling them to lead other men in a 45-minute long workout, to be leaders in their communities, to be leaders in their homes, because leadership is something that's caught as much as it is taught. And man, you can read all the best books you want, right? John Maxwell, stack them up to the ceiling. that's good. We need to do that. Mm-hmm. But we also need to get up and stand in front of a group of men that we don't know. We need to have something planned. We need to lead them well. We need to bring it to a close. I mean, we need the practice. With all the knowledge without practice never becomes wisdom. Mm-hmm. And, God, and I really believe, I'll play my cards here. I believe God is looking for men that have character and that want to lead from a place of wisdom, not just knowledge. Mm-hmm. Something that a mentor shared with me a long time ago that stuck with me in so many different aspects of my life is it's just simply this, that we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. Mm. And if you let that sink in for just a second, it should scare the crap out of you. Because the reality is you can learn all this stuff and fake it, but the reality is we're reproducing who we are, not what we say we are. And that's why I think the consistent challenge of growth in our lives is that it's got to be something that consistently moves us out of where we are into where we want to be. Mm-hmm. Because I think that what I've seen in F3 Knoxville, and what I continue to see in F3 Knoxville, and I love about the men of F3 Knoxville, is that they call me to be a better man. Mm-hmm. They just do. And they do it without saying anything sometimes. Sometimes it's about laughing about how tired we are and how much we don't want to do another Merkin, right? Right. But it's like, but if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. And it's not this competitive thing. It's this cooperative thing because I recognize I get better as you get better and you get better as I get better. That's at the DNA level, I think, of F3 Knoxville. And I just think it's just going to get better as more men continue to embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. And I think it started with 15 to 16 guys that maybe did not know who each other were and did not know how to lead F3. Nope. But you talk about this idea of getting up and leading in front of men that you don't know who they are in the gloom. Yeah. So when you started leading or queuing, I guess what was that process for you? I mean, everyone remembers their first cue, right?
Yeah, man, everybody remembers how bad it was. I mean, this is just breaking it down to be real. Like, so I can remember watching the YouTube video of Dredd, how to do a cadence call, and just
in the army pants.
Yeah, in the army pants, and doing his thing, and I was like, man, that's cool. But that's not me, but that's cool. And I think everyone has to find, at least for me, their way. But I think one of the things that stuck with me, and honestly, I want to give credit to Chaser for really placing this inside me. There was just something really simple about, look, make it yours, but make sure there's a consistency, right? And I think somebody a lot smarter than me could do, that research into why, but there's something about being able to have a consistency with regard to the way we call out the cadence and the way that we start things and all that stuff that matters. And so for me, honestly, I don't say it wasn't a heavy burden, but I was cognizant of it, right? I was aware of it, man, this is important. And so I can remember, like, I created the cue. And I sent it to Chaser to look at. It's like, man, dude, can you tell if this is good? He's like, yeah, man, it looks good. Just go for it, And man, we did like 4 corners and we did lunges and bear crawls. And then afterwards, I was super anxious and nervous about what to share in the bomb and all that stuff. And then I realized real quickly that, man, it's not about overthinking it. You don't have to be super profound. You just be authentic, and just say, hey, this is where I'm at, and this is something I'm learning, or this is something that I'm inspired by, or and then what I found was once you started doing it, there's a confidence that comes with it, and you're like, okay, I can do this, and it doesn't have to, and then you start getting creative and you start having fun, and then you see what doesn't work, and you plan this thing that's like, okay, that totally sucked, that was not good, not gonna do that again, that took way too long, or whatever.
Maybe 50 man makers is not the way.
Yeah, hey, maybe not. I mean, on your own, that's fine. But I think, I just think, and it's funny because even, again, just from the very beginning, we always knew, that's really the hurdle for guys is getting guys to cue. Because there's a lot of different reasons that people maybe wrestle with it, but it is hard. You are putting yourself out there. Mm-hmm. But what I've seen over my 5 years at F3 is that there is never going to be a more, for lack of a better way to say it, safer place for you to practice leadership than in the gloom with your brothers in F3. They're not going to judge you. They might laugh with you, and they might pick, but like there's just for me it's been the most judgment-free experience I've ever had, especially as a man, And I think that's part of what I long for men to experience. It's not just to fill up a Q calendar. It is part of it. But it's like there's sometimes it's just like you just have to understand when you put it into practice, when you actually do it, you'll be different afterwards. And sometimes guys, it just takes a little push, and so we all got to get pushed sometimes to be better. And that to me is what the queuing is all about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, when you have completed your first queue and you get used to queuing and you see guys step into their VQs, you realize, hey, I was there a couple months ago. I was there last week, and you want that so badly for them because you see the changes it's made in your life of, hey, I can step up and lead. And it's not about what I say. It's not about how many reps we do, but it's about, hey, I am called to lead as a man. And I want that for this man and this man and this man who comes and toes the line with me per se, in the gloom or in the fake gloom as well. And you've seen that for over 800 guys now, 5 years later. And we are at 12 or 13 AOs now and expanded. And so you think about where we started with 16 guys, this idea of, hey, we want some leadership. We want to bring this to Knoxville. Men need this. I remember you saying we have men that need F3 Knoxville. So when you think of men that still need F3 Knoxville, 5 years later, what is that one thing in F3 that men just need? Whether it's the leadership or maybe it's not as specific as, hey, they really need the bomb, or they really need the reps. But when you think about why do men need F3 Knoxville?
Oh man, gosh, that's a great question. And so one of the things that we started right after we launched was we were doing these weekly emails. And we still do, because the idea was to stay connected. And so, being in the middle and the center and providing leadership just allowed me to have kind of this view, right, of seeing what is the ancient ground, what is that? What is going on? What do I think? Can I somehow capture a little bit about what I see as is really pulling to men? And I've already said them. And I'll say them again. Number one, I think, I think as men, for us physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, that there's these consistent principles that growth is growth, whether it be growing physically or growing mentally or growing spiritually, all those things that they're what I have observed in my 5 years at F3, there are three things I've seen that I think, and it's not. And I'm not saying this because I'm saying I observe that I think men like myself need, and that's number one, a challenge. And I don't mean like getting all up and super in somebody's face. I mean being challenged. Sometimes the challenge is just to simply get out of bed. In the morning before your kids do, or whatever. Like that, right. Just the challenge of doing something that's hard. Why? Because it's hard, right? And because it reminds you that you can do hard things. Because no matter where you're at, if you're not in them, that's good. But if you are in them, hard times are coming, right? And so to know that I can be challenged and rise to that challenge, like that's experiential. That's not intellectual, that's experiential. It has to be felt experientially. Yeah. So in my personal opinion, I think men inside Knoxville, men in general, we need to be challenged to rise above the status quo.
And consistently, too.
Absolutely, because a single challenge is not enough, right? It's that consistency. And that's why it's like, that's why we have multiple AOs. That's why we have multiple workouts during the week, because we want to consistently build this kind of pattern in our lives where we're rising to something higher than us, and we're developing our skills internally, whether again be physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, that's causing us to be more than just getting by. And so it has to be challenged, it has to be consistent. And in my personal experience, and this is very personal for me, it requires camaraderie. It requires. Because, again, being honest, for me left up to myself and by myself and alone, it's a dangerous place. It's dangerous for me, and it's dangerous for my loved ones. When I'm in the present, the concept of iron sharpens iron, that's not just a t-shirt slogan. That is a principle I believe God wove into his creation. That iron sharpens iron, which means if I'm going to be iron, I'm going to need to be around other iron that sharpens me. Yeah. So, because the reality is the battle will dull me, right? Yeah. I need other men that are going to sharpen me, to remind me to rise above my base desires, instincts, and impulses, and to be something more. So, to challenge myself consistently in the context of other men, that is what I believe F3 brings to Knoxville, and that's the cauldron, if you will, right? That creates this opportunity for men to rise up and be leaders. Because then when the challenge comes, they know, number one, I've done this before. I've been here, done this. I know what to do. It's just put my head down and do it. And I also have a whole tribe of men that if I need to, I can call, and they're there with me in a second. But you don't get that laying in bed, right? You don't get that in your house by yourself. It's going to require something of you. It's going to require you getting up, putting your clothes on, and heading out to wherever your AO is. You can't just do it once a month, right? You got to do it consistently, because the guys need to know you, and trust builds. And so I think there's something really profound about all that coming together, and who and what F3 Knoxville is.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. And you think about this idea of not just taking, but you're giving at the same time. I mean, and not just in that role of Q, but when you show up, you're also giving your time, your physicality as well. And I think it's intentional that it starts at 5:30 in the morning. So before anything comes to your desk, comes to your phone, before emails start clocking in, and you're already sharpening the iron before the sun comes up in most days. And I think that's intentional of let's get up and do something hard before we start our day, go back to our wife, our kids, our families.
And get back in the fray. I've had multiple guys, over 5 years, and I've felt it multiple times. Hey man, we all hit the snooze, right? We all get in those places where I'm just too tired or whatever.
Fart sack.
Oh man, dude, I'm telling you. And I can say, over the last 5 years, consistently, and I feel like I can really say this with a sense of confidence, and that's it. I have never regretted showing up. I have always regretted not showing up. Oh yeah. No matter how tired I was or what, by noon you're like, man, I could have got up. That is just weak, Yeah. But as tired as I've been, and I just sitting there in the car, just going, oh, okay, and then that first car pulls in next to you. Yeah. And you're like, all right, my brother's here, let's go to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good.
And there's that concept of iron does sharpen iron. Like we've said this in Q's before. I'm not going to get out there at 5:30 and do this by myself. No. Like there is no way. No. I'm going to wake up by myself and do that. And you think of how we've expanded over 5 years with so many AOs. You get guys from across the city of Knoxville doing this, and I know you touched on earlier guys that you would maybe never have talked to, and it's not a bad thing. It's just just you may have never come into contact with them. And you think about how many AOs we have now across East Knoxville, West Knoxville, South Knoxville, expanding into different regions now as well. What have you seen in guys you've met that you have maybe never would have come into contact with?
Man, that's a really good question. I think the thing I've seen the most, honestly, is the commonality of the struggle. I think I'll just speak for me, because I can't speak broadly, but I think one of the things I always wrestled with was that the struggle was that I was the only one struggling with the things I was struggling with regard to, do I have what it takes? Can I make it? Do I, all the questions that kind of plague, I think the masculine soul. And what I have seen is the commonality of the struggle across the men that I've met through F3 Knoxville. Whether they be doctors or looking for a job, whether they be in college, or whether they've just name it. The full gambit spectrum is that there is inherently inside of life a struggle. Like life at its core, this side of glory is just a struggle. It just is. And there's one of the things we laugh about is like, but you just got to embrace the suck. If it's cold, awesome. If it's raining, awesome. If it's cold and raining, even double awesome. Let's just go. But for me, there's a switch that flips when you stop pushing against the suck. You just embrace it. And when you embrace it, something shifts, I think, inside of a man. And what I've seen men come out and bring that struggle and overcome it in a 45-minute workout and again and begin to rise up into who they are in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and in this city. And that has been something that I have received so much more from F3 than I could have ever given. And that's not being cliche or cheesy. I mean, it's just a simple fact. I just have. I think that's what continues to make me so passionate about men coming. It's like, I'm telling you, you are going to get so much more from this than you ever thought you would. You ever thought you would, or that it's in some way form that you would be giving just because you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And so I think that struggle and the heart to overcome it has been the most consistent thing I've seen in F3 that continues to inspire me.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, and it's consistent around the region as well. I think Knoxville does that very, very well. And we've learned to do that well. And you mentioned something about, you have college kids that come out, you have guys that are married that come out. I came out when I was a junior in college, and thinking, man, I wish I had this when I was 16, and so I'm out there with guys that are married, that have kids, and so you see this spectrum of even guys in high school now and in middle school that come out and like, man, this is awesome. And you see that spectrum of guys like myself who are in college or younger and guys that are married, have kids, and it's so broad and you get so much experience. So I'll share a little bit about maybe my experience coming into it from college, and I'd love to hear maybe as a father what you bring to F3, because it's going to be two different experiences, but all that fades away when you're in the gloom, right? So in college I was still trying to find myself like many men were, right? And found F3 and was like, how have I not known about this for the past couple of years? And it did something for me because I saw men that were in leadership positions that were stepping up and living out this idea of being a high impact man, and whether I saw that in my life before or not, that was washed away because I had that right in front of me, coming to F3 and consistently seeing men of impact that didn't just stop outside the circle of trust, that carried over throughout the rest of the week as well. And so as a younger man, that's been so formational in my life as well. So as a married man who has kids as well, as a father, what does that speak to? Or I guess, how does F3 and being a father just have a unique relationship that I think we can both agree has really influenced your life in great ways?
The funny is, I would say the exact same thing. Because I think, part of what, every stage of life has fresh challenges to it, has fresh questions to answer. And I think, there is the reality of that, the effort and work you put in yesterday is not going to get you through today. It's like there's always something where we're growing and kind of being challenged. And so, I've seen it when I was in college, going through the exact same things you're talking about. Then you kind of get into the world and you start getting getting grounded in your job. You start finding your identity there. Okay, this is a part of who I am. What does this look like? You spend your 20s, kind of 30s doing that, and then you develop a family, and you're like, okay, well now I'm a dad. What does that mean? And then the kids, as your kids get older, it's like you kind of go through these transitions of parenting. Wow, what does all that mean? And now I'm in the place where I have a couple of kids in high school, one in middle school, one in college. So we're in that transition time where we're kind of moving back to kind of where we were when we first got married. It's like, well, that's all new, right? And so I think what I have found in F3 is other men in that place. And I don't really know why. I don't have the psychological understanding of it. I just know that my default is to feel alone and isolated. And so F3 calls me out of that. It shows me other men who are ahead of me, that are, that have grandkids now, and are out there. It's still pushing and getting better. And still in some ways wrestling. I don't know. I think there was a long time where I was looking for the finish line, looking for how this ends. And it doesn't. Yeah. And it's like, it just doesn't. Growth shouldn't. We should never stop getting better. We should never stop learning. We should never stop seeking more wisdom for how to do things better the next time. And again, F3 becomes a little microcosm, right? When you lead, you put yourself out there and you learn things. What went well? Well, what didn't go so well? What would you do different next time? Well, what you would do different next time doesn't matter until you do it, right? So you got to do it. And then when you do it, you learn. You go, oh, wow, this went so much better. But now I'd really like, and it's like that's the process. That process then you take into your relationship with your wife. Okay, and so, wow, I haven't been leading in the home. Well, okay, so lead a little bit. What went well, what didn't? Okay, well then you get back and you do it with your kids, you do it with your friends, you do it at work. The leadership process it's transferable, right? It's replicable in all areas of life, but you got to start somewhere. Because if you don't start, then you're a spectator, not a participant. And man, that should scare us all. Again, that we could actually get through life as a spectator, and then get to the end and realize I never really embraced anything because I was scared of the struggle. Well, it's like, no, as sooner you embrace the struggle, you begin living. And then again, when you've got other men around you that are in that same place, you talk about things and you learn things and you grow and and you laugh together and you cry together and you grow together. That's, that to me is what it's all about. And it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in. It's just about embracing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that embrace the suck as well. Like, you're going to come to a queue where it's going to be nice and sunny. You're going to come to a queue and it's raining and awesome.
Yep.
Let's get after it.
Exactly. You're going to have your queue all planned, and then you're going to get there that morning and it's like, it's pouring down rain. All right? Well, now what do I do? I mean, we've had some, oh my gosh, there's been some crazy ones. I can remember some ones where it was probably not a great idea for us to be outside. But there was no lightning, so what are you going to do?
Rain or shine.
Yeah, rain or shine, hot or cold.
Or snow.
Oh, yeah, snow. Oh, man. So, but isn't it funny, though, that I mean, you don't tell stories of when things went easy, right? I mean, you don't tell the stories about when everything was totally fine. You tell those stories of like, dude, can you believe it was 17 degrees and we were doing bear crawls in the grass? Like, what were we thinking? Those are the stories you look back and you laugh on.
Yeah.
I want more of those.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, and imagine how many guys could share that after 5 years.
Oh,
right?
man, gosh, I think that's what's exciting to me about this is we get to hear stories because again, at the core of who F3 is, it's relational, right? And so as we hear the stories, the before and after stories, if you will, the life and death stories, the struggle stories, as we hear those, we find ourselves in them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you resonate with that.
Yes.
Regardless of stage of life.
Absolutely.
Just like you mentioned,
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you live, doesn't matter what church you go to, doesn't matter what business you're involved in, doesn't matter how old you are. The masculine struggle is universal for all of us. Yeah. All that stuff fades away when you're doing, burpees. It just doesn't matter. So it's good.
Right. Yeah. Well, a couple more things I want to touch on. I want to go over where you see F3 Knoxville going, in the next 5 years, but we have these nicknames in F3. So you're only in F&G once, right? You're a friendly new guy. You come in, you don't know what to expect. You get your nickname. That's it, for life.
Yes.
You're known as Captain Crunch. I'm known as Steam. So,
that's the way it is.
For better or for worse, right?
Exactly. It's what it is.
And you think about the last 5 years, thinking about Captain Crunch. What is the Captain Crunch story for the past 5 years? When you think about day one, Captain Crunch being named at that initial time to right now, as Captain Crunch, I think I'm going to rearrange that. I know that you've been an inspiration and such a front runner and who F3 Knoxville is, not only in Knoxville, but I mean throughout the region. I mean the F3 Nation as well. And you think about your name, Captain Crunch. When you hear people say that, give you a fist bump. Hey, what's up, Captain Crunch? What does that do for you? What does that drive in you? Just talking about for 5 years, what an awesome legacy to have lived and led for so long.
So as you were just talking, I was just trying to be still, and I was just like, okay, so what's the first word that comes up, right?
Yeah.
For better or for worse, and then I was like, I do have the courage to say it. And Steve, as you were talking, the first word that came up when you just said that, when someone comes up and says, "Hey, Cat, what's up?" and we do a fist bump, the first thought that comes to my mind is belonging. I belong here. Who I am is a blessing and is an encouragement to the person in front of me, and I belong here. And I guess maybe I didn't realize, and I've always, I've got a great family, I've had great friends, all those things like that. But when I think about what F3 Knoxville did is like for me, and again, I'm not saying it's like this for everyone. I'm really not. But for me, when I wear an F3 shirt or a patch like that, like it is a declaration for me as much as it is an inspiration for me. It's a declaration to the world that I belong. This is my tribe. These are the men that I love. I mean, literally, there are men in this group that if they were to call me tonight and they needed something, I mean, it's no question, hands down. I mean, why? Because I've been through stuff with them. Yeah. And so it's a declaration that of belonging, but it's also, to me, an inspiration. You know, I mean, I think I've heard, I don't know for sure, but I know that you know, when a Buds graduate gets his Trident pendant, that as it's being pinned, he is told, earn it every day. You know, it's this idea of like, you don't earn it and then stop. It's a daily earning. And when that's what I mean by inspiration. Like when I put on an F3, like, okay, I need to earn this. Like I need to earn the right to wear this. And I'm saying that for me, right? I'm not making a declaration for anybody else. I'm just saying that for me, that's how it's impacted me. And it's just like, I can't imagine my world not having these brothers in it, you know, and I can't, and so when I begin to look forward, when I'm like, okay, I honestly don't think, I think we have been building the tribe, and we have been kind of getting these connections and building these relationships. I think the next chapter is going to be, and now this tribe really beginning to impact the city. I don't think it stops with us. I think that there is a purpose driving our gatherings and the connections that men have made. And I believe there is a complete vacuum of integrity, moral male leadership. And I think that's part of what we've been trying to figure out and what that looks like. And not perfection, but in process, man, always learning and growing. I think the next chapter begins with us asking the question, how is Knoxville better? Because F3 exists. I mean, I know how I'm better because F3 exists, but how is Knoxville better? Is it any better? Is Knoxville any better after 5 years of F3? Will it be any better after 10? I think it can be. I really, really, really do. I think with the caliber of man that comes to F3 Knoxville, we have not but barely scratched the surface of what we can do in this city. And I think that will just raise everything to a whole nother level.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. Like it's done so many things for the guys that are inside.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
You know, and you think of what we would call sad clowns.
Yeah.
You know, like our city, other men that don't come to F3 yet, you know, like they're, you know, sad clowns. The idea of what are we doing to make life better for the people around us? Being good neighbors, being high impact men. And I think that's an exciting thought for going into year 6 coming up. Or year 5, sorry. And then thinking about the next 5 years as well. How is Knoxville better? Because there are F3 men strategically placed around every corner of our city that are impacting those communities, those families, those atmospheres that go so far beyond the circle of trust, you know.
So far beyond. Yeah. And I think we were wired, we were built for purpose. And I think we get a small taste of it, and again, in the mornings together and when we're leading. But I think there's nothing more just life-giving than giving your life for something bigger than you. And I think that's what F3 gives us the opportunity to do. Doesn't matter race, creed, you know, just in the gloom, no one cares. Like I've never been part of a free or place where no one cares about that stuff. Can we just get better together, and can that then overflow into our jobs, into our neighborhoods, and our families? I just feel like men are going, I'll be about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Captain Crunch, thank you so much for
Man.
your time, man. It's an honor to have you on the first episode of this.
Hardly, but man, I'm so glad. Again, I can't wait to see what this next year holds and what I mean, I just think, man, we just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, absolutely. And from F3 Knoxville, I mean, thank you seriously for bringing this and being strategic in that. And one thing I will always want to finish on is doing a name-a-rama, just so guys know who they're listening from, you know, who they're talking to. So just like we would do a name-a-rama.
It only makes sense.
It only makes sense. We're in a purpose. So
yes. All right. This is Ted Anslet, 48, Captain Crunch.
Cabin Crunch. And this is your host, Dan Henson, 26, Steam, signing off. Iron sharpens iron.
Let's go.
All right. Good afternoon. Pusher, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Hey, good to hear from you, brother.
So thank you for having me here.
Hey, I'm glad you're here, man. Glad you're here. How was your queue this morning at Asylum?
Oh, it was, it was tough. I'm going to say that. It's my first time to queue in Saturday for 1 hour.
Oh,
And
wow.
I never realized that when I look at my time, it was 47 minutes. Oh my goodness. I still have to do 13 more minutes to torture this, to torture these guys. But I got tortured more than them because I was like, my goodness, I said slow mosey. They're doing a fast mosey. So, but we survived. That's the best thing.
That is the best thing. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Hey, the difference 15 minutes makes from a normal F3 workout, and adding those 15 minutes on Saturday is like, man, this is a long hour,
It,
really
it,
long hour.
it is. It is. I'm not. I'm not going to lie to you, but makes a big difference. 15 minutes takes forever.
It does. It does. And I found myself in those situations too. I'm like, how do I still have 15 minutes? I thought I'd planned for the whole hour, and you've got to push through, which is
Yes.
good.
Yes. Yeah. It is good. It is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much for being on today. I'm excited for our conversation we're about to have, and just to hear from you. So I know I want to hear your story of F3.
Oh.
How'd you come to F3? How'd you get the name Pusher? And then I think we'll focus on the power of positivity and pushing through hard things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and kind of flesh some of that out
Or
um, for today. But yeah, man, how'd you get plugged in with F3, and
well.
how'd you get a cool name like Pusher?
Well, I just got to. Thank you for having me here. It's my. I'm honored that you asked me to join you. And but yep, actually, it started. Rusty. David.
Okay.
He's my friend, and he's my very close friend. We went to Philippines. With his family and my family, and he was
Mm,
explaining to my oldest son that what kind of exercise he was doing. And at that time, I was just looking at him. Those are the tough workout. So I was looking away, trying to step away because I don't want him to let me, hey, going to join. So because I was like, I don't want, and I was like I was in the worst shape of my life. I was overweight and everything, but I was looking away. I mean, really that one. So when we came back here in the United States, he asked me, hey, Pusher, how you going to do you like to work out? And I said, yeah, with a little bit hesitation there. And said, okay, well, we're going to pick you up Monday, around 5:10. And all this time I thought it was at 5:10 in the afternoon. And I said, okay, I'll
oh
come
man.
back. I'll come back. I'll come back from work. Then I'm going to get dressed and probably I'll meet you somewhere. And he just gave me a good look. No, we are not going to work out in the afternoon. We're going to work out in the morning. I said, 5:10 in the morning, going to pick me up? Ah, no way. You are not going to pick me up. So, okay, we will pick you up. So Sunday evening, I can't go to sleep. I was till 2 o'clock. I was just watching the time. And by the
Mm,
time that 4:30, my wife and woke up a little bit and elbowed me. You need to get dressed, so like that. My wife, her name's Con, and I go, oh
yeah.
my goodness, I don't want to. So I got dressed and stuff, hoping that surely they're not going to be here in my drive at around 5:10. I mean, that's no way. Sure enough, I heard, I heard their Jeep. Oh my goodness. So, I went to the workout in the asylum. Then I worked out really, really hard at that. That was the first time I've heard, F3. Then, then of course, was the FNG. And when I heard, I was like, okay, what's smirking? Because I'm smirking. What's smirking? Smirking. I was like shocked and always scared. So by the time they said, okay, recover, I said, what kind of workout is that? Recover, because I have no clue about the lingo. So that's what they started asking me. So of course they, I was the FNG. They asked me, what's my history, and I said I'm from the Philippines and I'm a physical therapist. Usually, this is what it started. Usually, I always push my patient that, hey, you're doing great. Let's try to do 10 more. And I'm always pushing. Like if they have a knee replacement, I go, okay, let's try to do 10 more times of stretching. We'll do that. But on the other side, as being a provider, I said, I don't push myself. If I can get away from doing the air workout, yes, that was me. So I don't push myself.
Hmm.
So, of course, my F3 brother's name is Pusher. And that's where I came the name Pusher. And, since then, I love the name. It just brings me that, oh, this is me. I'm Pusher. And
Hmm.
so that's the main that's the story of where Pusher came from.
Man, what a name too. And I love I love that your wife was like, "Hey, go ahead and get up and get dressed."
Yeah,
At 4:30.
yeah, yeah. I need some
That's
encouragement, but definitely I was scared with my wife more than not encouragement.
oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
So you made it through your first workout, and you get used to the lingo, obviously, of what's a Merkin, what is recover.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
recover is one of my favorite words to hear in F3.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
I agree with that.
um, so you made it through your first workout, and I want to go back to something you said because I I think it was really formational to hear, and I'm sure it was for your life as well. Of when you are working with your patients, you're pushing them to be the best versions of themselves, and you're pushing them for 10 more reps or 10 more steps.
Yes,
But you notice that, hey, I'm not doing this in my life.
yes.
As you continued to do F3, did you notice that gap close with between how you push people to be better professionally, but also how you do that in your own life as well?
Yes, actually, F3 taught me how to push myself, because of
Mm,
the encouragement from the other F3 brothers. So I'm pushing, with my patient, but at the same time, I have to change the way I, look at myself that, hey, if I'm pushing my patient, if my patient can do this, that much worse condition they are, what more for me that I don't have a knee replacement, I don't have a back pain.
mm,
Surely, if they can do that one through the encouragement from me as a physical therapist, surely I can encourage myself, but encouraging from my F3 brothers. So I changed my outlook like that. So every time I work out, my F3 brothers, the one I'm always following everybody because that's the encouragement that I get, and I push myself on that one. So that's the one it really changed my outlook. And of course,
mm.
Steam, I won't not going to forget. You were the first few people that you did the queue that, oh my goodness, that was the toughest workout that I ever done. And I
Oh
will not
man.
going to forget your name and say, okay, that's Steam. So if I can get with Steam all the time with the workout, I will be there. So every time that you have the queue, I always try to be there because you are the one that really encouraged me. And of course, all our F3 brothers.
Mm.
So,
Well, I'm really sorry that you had to experience that
no, it's
that
not. It's a good,
that
great
tough workout the
experience.
first time. Oh man. Well, and I would say the same for you as well. So you go to Asylum PM for the most part, right?
Yes, yes,
And sometimes Asylum as well, and even just affirming you for a second of whether I'm on cue or or not. Anytime pusher steps into that circle, so anytime that you enter to a workout before we start or step into that circle of trust before we kick off, it's like, okay, man, like this is good, because I know pusher is going to push for the whole 45 minutes or the whole hour, he's not going to let up, and he's also not going to let the F3 guys let up as well. He's going to push them to be better versions of themselves in that 45 minutes or hour as well. And so every time that you show up at an AO, I'm like, oh man, this is going to be good, and especially when you queue and uh, and everyone cues differently, which is awesome. But one thing I really enjoy about you when you cue and when you step into that setting and then lead at F3 is that you are very intentional about reminding the men, push yourselves, and it's okay if you don't do every